I'm a conservative Republican, and I believe deeply in the policies of limited government, of low taxes, of a strong national defense. I believe that the family is the center of our community and of our lives, and I believe those are the right policies for our nation. But I also know that at this moment, we are confronting a domestic threat that we have never faced before, and that is a former president who is attempting to unravel the foundations of our constitutional republic. And he is aided by Republican leaders and elected officials who made themselves willing hostages to this dangerous and irrational man.
That was Congresswoman Liz Cheney on Wednesday, laying out to a conservative audience why the work of the January 6th committee is so important. Her speech coming hours after the committee subpoenaed former White House counsel Pat Cipollone, and days after the bombshell testimony of former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, who recalled a story told to her by then Deputy Chief of Staff Tony Ornato about a physical altercation between Donald Trump and his top security official on January 6th. Now, members of the Secret Service who work for Trump are disputing parts of her story. Bill Hutchinson said through her lawyer that she stands by her testimony. Joining me now, Jill Wine-Banks, an MSNBC legal analyst. So, Jill, Cassidy Hutchinson told that story about what happened inside of the president's SUV, and now members of the Secret Service are refuting at least parts, critical parts of her story. They say they will testify under oath that it did not happen. I mean, how common is this? And do you think that the agents will agree to actually come and testify under oath? Like, I don't actually care what you tell a reporter. Go and testify under oath like she did, right?
Exactly. I think the important thing is this is partly a deflection because it isn't the key part of her testimony. Key parts of her testimony included the fact that the president knew that his supporters were armed, that he didn't care. He said, I don't care, they won't hurt me, which means he doesn't care that they might hurt members of Congress, and that he wanted to go. It doesn't matter whether he grabbed the steering wheel, whether he lunged. Those are interesting facts, and she was perfectly credible, so it may or may not have happened. She only repeated a story she was told. She never said she saw it happen. Now, if the people in the room who told her that say, we never said that, I want them to say it under oath. She's under oath, and she's the one who's credible, saying to a reporter, we'll come forward, we'll make them available. And again, they haven't denied the important part, which is that he wanted to go to the Capitol, that he didn't care that his supporters were armed and were posing an existential threat to his own vice president and to members of Congress, and to their constitutional responsibility to count the ballots. That's really what's important in her testimony.
The other thing I keep thinking about, just practically speaking, and I don't know if this is because I just watch a lot of like crime procedurals, but you know, if there's a dash cam in a regular Hyundai, I feel like there would be one in a presidential SUV where they could pull a tape from the rear view mirror that will tell us exactly what happened. I'm just, you know, speculating, but also based on reality and lived experience in this country. Maybe there is no camera, but I just think that it is a good question. There's a number of folks, Jill, who have come out to defend Hutchinson and actually call out Tony Ornato because he sometimes has a problem with the truth, and Trump does have an interesting history of relationships with his security staff. Former White House official Alyssa Farah Griffin tweeted this, quote, Tony Ornato lied about me too. During the protests at Lafayette Square in 2020, I told Mark Meadows and Ornato they needed to warn the press staged there before clearing the square. Meadows replied, we aren't doing that. Tony later lied and said the exchange never happened. He knows it did. So at the end of the day, as you said, what matters is that Trump wanted to go to the Capitol, not which arm he reached over and tried to grab the steering wheel with. Right? I mean, isn't that what's legally relevant, not just to the committee, but also even the Department of Justice?
It is. I will say, obviously, credibility of any witness is important. And if she said something that didn't, in fact, happen, and you have credible under oath testimony from other people saying, she made that up. That hurts her overall credibility. I don't think that's going to happen, but I can't. I have no inside information. We need to hear from Tony Ornato. We need to hear from Engel. We need to hear from somebody, because I think your question is a good one. Is there a video inside or an audio inside of that vehicle? If so, that's the best evidence of exactly what happened. But what happened isn't important in terms of, did he lunge? Did he grab the steering wheel? Let's focus on what's important. He knew his supporters were armed. He wanted them let into his rally because he wanted it to look big. Doesn't that sound familiar? I mean, he wants it to look good. Doesn't matter if it really is, just that it looks good. And that he sicked them on the Congress. Whether he went or not isn't even really relevant, although it certainly adds to the drama if he really intended to go and was planning to go, despite all the advice against it. So at this point, I would have to say that Cassidy Hutchinson is a very credible witness. She has no reason to make this up. Tony Ornato has been called out as a liar also by Olivia Troy, who worked for Vice President Pence. She tweeted something to the same effect. And so right now it's two people saying Ornato's a liar, so I wouldn't believe him, and nobody saying that she's a liar, saying she may have misreported something, pretty minor. Nobody is denying the major facts. Secret Service isn't saying he didn't want to go there. Let's focus on he wanted to go. He wanted to rile up the crowd. He wanted an armed crowd to intervene to stop counting the ballots so that he could unlawfully remain in power. That's the crime. And we have to focus on that is the crime. That's pretty dramatic.
So to that point, I think that we can answer that question. You know, Pat Cipollone, former White House counsel, was subpoenaed yesterday to testify before this committee. He can actually answer some of these questions. Did the president want to go? He's quoted as saying, don't let him go because we're going to, you know, have blood on our hands and violate numerous laws if that happens. I mean, does he have any good faith reason not to show up and testify and answer those specific questions in public?
So Pat Cipollone is the successor to John Dean many administrations later, but John Dean was the John Dean of Watergate. Pat Cipollone was in a place to know and to be able to corroborate not just this particular episode, but many other parts of the overall scheme to defraud the U.S., the overall scheme to overturn the election, to deprive all of us of our right to have our ballots counted as they should be. So I have long said I'm hoping that he will come forward and testify honestly. And as White House counsel, his client is not Donald Trump. His client is the office of the presidency. And he also has an ethical responsibility to report anything that is done in that office that is illegal, because it isn't his client, the president. It is the client, the people, and the presidency. And so his obligation is very clear. He may be having to rethink, did he fail to report something that the laws, the rules of ethics for lawyers required him to report? There's been some very interesting writing on this and seminars being given by John Dean and Jim Robineau talking about the ethical obligations of White House counsel. And I think he maybe better be thinking about consulting with them about what his obligation was and whether he possibly better come clean now, better late than never.
Better late than never is true, but I'm telling you, you do not want to violate the legal rules of ethics when you are a lawyer, because that license is hard to get and you want to keep it at all costs. Jill Wine-Banks, thank you so much for being here. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.